and my name, as always, is Eugene Nangwe. Tonight on the program, once again, we have had this conversation before, but of course at different levels, and of course it pertains the media and of course the viability of the business right here in Rwanda, with the news of the closure of yet another investment in the media right here in Rwanda. And I'm talking about Royal TV right here in Rwanda. And the questions that we're asking ourselves is, where is the problem? Is it on the management part? Is it on the legislative part or the regulation part? Or where is the problem indeed? This is what we want to talk about right here on the program. It is an interactive show. All you need to do is simply get in touch with us on our Twitter, hashtag InFocusRW. Simply do that. We'll be tracking that throughout the show. My team and I will be doing that. But of course, as we start the program, it's important to just let you know a few background information concerning media here in Rwanda. And for those who wish to actually start TV stations right in Rwanda, it's important to understand that there are requirements right here, and these are the requirements according to RURA, and one of them is the application letter addressed to the Director General of RURA, application form, which is also available on the RURA website. I'm sure you have some people following this keenly, and they'll be asking themselves whether they will be deciding to do this or not, looking at the market right here. We also need a CV of Managing Director and the Chief Editor, of course the criminal record of the Managing Director and Chief Editor, business plan. This is very important, and of course we'll be getting to know from RURA right here. Of course we have a representative right here on the program. They'll be telling us some of the business plans they've seen and why do we see media businesses closing down, especially after having submitted business plans. What is the problem? Company certificate of registration, studio technical plan, the layout application for TV applicants, and of course weekly content program. This is very important also to understand, and I want to know if this really happens or it is just a matter of a requirement on the list right there. And of course an application fee of 50,000 Rwandan francs. I'm told there are some other amounts of money that have not been put here that the media owners usually pay for. We'll be talking about that. Of course, this is the list of the TV stations that we have right here in Rwanda. So far we have 15, and some of them have actually closed shop. One of them was Royal, and of course these are all the TV stations that are actually on air as we speak. Top on the list right there is of course Rwanda Television, and of course we also have Victory Television coming in at the 15th TV station right here. Also, it's important to understand that there was a media barometer that was given out by the Rwanda Governance Board that actually monitors the growth of the media and the challenges that the media actually goes through. And interestingly, they did say in 2016 that media development in Rwanda has improved by 8.9, and of course it's important also to understand that they have said this number has gone upward in media development from 60.7 in 2013 to 69.6 in 2016. So according to them, there's actually growth of media here in Rwanda, and these are the numbers. Television information consumption has actually gone up from 26 in 2013 to 33.4% in 2016. Also, the consumption of information from social media is actually going up. It's another issue we'll be talking about right on the program, as far as the effects of the consumption of social media content as opposed to traditional media, as well as the downward trend in it was registered in consumption of information and news from radio and print. Also very important infographic right there. More people are getting information from community meetings like Umuganda, 69%. That is the number according to the media barometer. Social media platforms like Facebook usage has also gone up, and of course also other platforms like Twitter, the usage is also going up, 14.4 in 2013 and 35% in 2016. WhatsApp, I also know that you can actually testify to this. The continued downward trend rather for print media is at 13%. It was in 2013 and 15.3 in 2013. Rather, in 2016, it was at 13.8%, and yet it was at 15.3% in 2013. TV is still resilient to the threat posed by the internet. We'll discuss that a bit more right here on the program. Digital migration effects have also been talked about. Media development in Rwanda is actually improving. This is what they're saying. Of course, these are factors that have been talked about in the barometer. Also, there have been key statements that have been said concerning media, and this is what the head of state himself, President Paul Kagame, has actually said concerning media in Rwanda. This is a statement he made in August 9th in 2012 during an ESC summit on media, and this is what he said, and I quote, "When governments build stronger professional and business partnerships with the media, there will be stronger, faster, and even more factual reporting in our region. In order to nurture a pan-East African media, the government and private sector have the responsibility to invest in our local media and help raise their professional and ethical standards." What we'll be underlining tonight in the program is the government and the private sector's role in all this. So let me quickly introduce my panelists on the program. Right here tonight we have Albert Rudatsimburwa. He is the proprietor of Contact. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
It's not the first time we're talking about this on the show. Thank you for being here. The spokesperson of Rura is also here, Anthony Kuramba. Thank you for joining us on the program. And for the first time, my boss is here. Thank you so much for making time on the program.
Thank you for hosting me.
All right, so this is when I either get demoted or promoted. But listen, we have a very serious...
You're on a payroll.
Yeah, this one we'll discuss a bit later. But listen, we have a serious issue going on. Probably might not be so serious to some of you, but I want to understand your perspective, first of all. Your own understanding of events. We first started off, KFM did close down a few, some time ago. Today it's under new management. Royal TV just a few days announced that it is closing. And we're also happy to have Bana also on Skype, who has also joined us all the way from London. She will be giving us a perspective on KFM and the Nation Media Group's investment and what really went wrong and what can be done to actually salvage the media as an industry. Bana, thank you for being with us. All right. So I was going to start with the program. I want to hear your perspectives. First of all, let me start with you, Albert. The barometer.
Just one second.
Yes.
Can the people from the technical side,
yes,
can they slow down the
It's affecting you?
The aircon?
Why?
It's so loud, I cannot hear you.
Okay, I'm going to raise my voice.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Right, so huh? Yes, they've had it.
Okay.
So what I was asking you, the barometer actually indicates an upward development in the media industry. Yet on the ground, we are seeing some media houses closing down. I want to hear from you as a stakeholder, as a media owner. What is the real issue in the media industry as far as issues of revenue generation, because this is the point that they raise when they say we are rolling back our investments or we are closing down? What is the real problem?
Well, first, let me go straight to the point when they say it's going up. Mm-hmm. That is because the technological development and the migration that we have embraced and all that, and the digital era that we're in, so it's more open for more people. More people can join. But I don't think the RGB can say that the budget spent, the media buy, went up. I believe that one went down. Mm-hmm. So actually, there is room there to see new avenues because of this development. Mm-hmm. So for me, you cannot count, first of all, on what in under other skies is a granted revenue for the media, is the spend of the private sector. Because we don't have a private sector in Rwanda that is competitive. Nobody competes against each other to be better. So it's just a presence. When the media sector has a presence in the media, they think they do you a favor. They don't understand that they should be baking their own cake. I'll give you an example. If you look at any international channel here, who are the biggest spenders? It's like banks, insurance, and how many of these guys do you see in these media? Mm-hmm. No one.
Okay.
So you don't have, everybody has agreed. So that revenue should today not be really considered, because I don't see in a short term, the private sector spending more. Secondly, the government has downside also the spending themselves. So I think we need to look here at this privileged moment, actually, when everybody's talking to each other, because we are concerned, at new streams of revenues.
Of revenues, right. Let me hear from Kuramba. I mean, do you feel concerned as the regulators, do you feel concerned with the closing of businesses, of media houses? Because what was said, I was in that room when the barometer was being launched, and the fact that many media houses had opened shop in Rwanda was used as a way of showing that actually the environment is growing. I mean, the things look good. But yet we're hearing of people saying, this market, I cannot survive. Does it concern you?
Yeah, definitely. When one media houses closes, it's a concern to the regulator, because our responsibility is to make sure that investors are attracted and they retain business, they make profit, consumers get the best service, the policies on the media develops. Now, from the optimistic point of view, I would say, whereas there are challenges, but there are also opportunities. And if you look at the media houses that have come up in the last 3 years, in relation to one or two that are closing, I think we shouldn't worry so much.
It's not a cause for alarm, that's what you're saying?
It's not a cause for alarm. And from our part, we believe that after the transition trial phase, there is good news from the regulator. We have a new regulation that is going to bring everybody on board. People are going to get the long-term license that will help them. And as we get together with this new licensing framework, there are so many opportunities. We are ready to sit and discuss issues. All we want is that the media gets the management part come together, come with one voice. We sit and discuss the challenges. Challenges will always be there, but as long as there is a spirit of cooperation, we can overcome these challenges.
Right. So from where you sit, you feel licensing is the problem that is making them say, you know what, we cannot survive?
It offers opportunities. The new licensing framework offers opportunities for people who have been operating with temporary authorizations. If you have a license long-term, you can get a bank loan. But also the new framework offers opportunity to meet and discuss these issues.
Right. So before I go to Arthur, where are the problems in your opinion from the regulator perspective?
I believe from the management part of, on the part of the media sector, yes, as you mentioned. Yeah.
So management,
yeah.
You feel the environment is actually ripe for growth, but they are not managing themselves well.
Yes,
and that's
the environment offers opportunities.
Okay. Boss, how is everything in this perspective after listening to the two of them? Some have even said the government, the national broadcaster rather, actually has a role to play in one way or another, because they'll always survive. They'll never roll back their businesses and, back and say, you know what, we are not making it in the media, because already they have an advantage in terms of, getting some budgetary support, whereas the private media houses have to struggle to actually earn that money to have the top cream of journalists in their areas of operation. So how does this play out? Do you think this is a genuine concern? And how do we deal with that?
No, I think that there's no cause for alarm. I think media houses or media outlets or media businesses are closing all over the world. It's not happening for the first time here in Rwanda. I mean, there's a crisis in Europe, newspapers are closing, US newspapers are closing. So if one media outlet closes here, I think it's the dynamics of the market. Media is a business. If you don't get your numbers right, then definitely you're going to struggle. And I think I concur with what Tony was saying, and partly what Albert said. After the digital migration, which happened almost 3 or 4 years ago, I think there was an excitement on the market. It was easier for anyone to wake up in the morning and set up a TV, because all you need to do is have a small studio somewhere and send your signal to RBA for transmission. So it becomes a little more easier compared to the analog period where you had to have your own transmission mast on a hill somewhere, which was more expensive. So after the digital migration, it became easier for people to set up TV stations. And that's why you can see in a market like Rwanda, we already have 15 TVs operating. So I think for me, we have now reached a period where the transition that was characterized by excitement of, I'm setting up a TV because it's easier for me. Mm-hmm. I think we're now moving away from that period into the serious business. Mm-hmm. So now people who have set up the TV or their media outlets and have not put their houses in order, the period of transition is over, and now you're going into the competitive market. And so I think you might even see two or three more closing down, or you might see 2 or 3 more merging to be able to compete. But I think the market that we have cannot sustain all this number of, the big number of TVs that we have. And so I think the transition period is over, and now people are going into the competitive market. And the only solution that you have now today is to be able to keep your house in order and be able to have keep your books in order and be able to make sure that you're competing for the market that is there. Mm-hmm. And I think for me it is a positive trend. I think the media is growing. I think not growing in terms of numbers only, in terms of the outlets that we have, but also in terms of the quality of the programming. When you switch on radios or TV stations, you're able to view content that is local and that is appealing. And so for me, when I look at the trend, I see a positive trend rather than having to be worried about the future.
Okay, let me bring Bana, because Bana has worked in a media house that has actually been affected by this issue of closure. Bana, if you heard correctly, 2 of our panelists have said there is actually no cause for alarm when we're seeing these closures going on. And Asimwe says that actually don't be surprised to see more actually closing or some even restrategizing and merging to work together. And my concern is when they say this, the cause for alarm could be on the effect of the implication of these closures. One, the job opportunities, especially for those who lose these jobs. I want to hear from your perspective. You worked with NMG, and probably you still do, but in a different, sphere. Talk to me about this whole concern that you probably have yourself when it comes to the closures of media houses over the issue of non-viability of media market here in Rwanda.
I would like to, first of all, say I agree with the panelists that it is a global trend in terms of how the news is operating. You have news media organizations being affected by developments in technology, and for the Rwandan context, competition is coming in. But for me, the concern is that for every job that is lost, there's a family that is by the job loss. So you can't say that there's no cause for alarm when families are affected by this job losses. When KFM had to lay off about 30 people, myself, I couldn't sleep because I was looking at these people. They have families that depend on them, and you're suddenly telling them, we are no more, we have to go home. So it shouldn't, may not look like it is alarming, but if you look at the impact.
All right, Bana, I think, Bana, sorry about that. There seems to be some technical problems with your sound. Let's have our technicians sort that out. But of course, I've heard you correctly. If I may, I think if I can paraphrase what you're saying, you feel concerned that there is a feeling of no cause for alarm, yet you have people actually losing their jobs, having put their energies to actually work to earn a living, and then they wake up in the morning and they're told the work is no longer there because the media house is actually closing. As we fix the sound, let's just keep the conversation right here. Albert, when Asimo was talking, I could see from your body language you seem to be having something that you want to say, probably on the contrary, or actually to agree with him, especially on the issue of putting houses together. He seems to be agreeing with Kuramba that actually management is also partly to play. Do you agree with that?
No. That's an easy way to go through. I mean, one thing I agree is that when digital migration opened up, media houses were mushrooming, popping up, like you said. Maybe not with proper business plans and structures and all that, because very few understand. Maybe but again, let me not put it there, because it is true that it exists, but the problem is not from there. The real question is that, first of all, like today, even coming from Orinfo, going to RBA, I can only just commend your jobs. You guys did a great job. And we are really proud to have now a TV channel of that level. But then let's also keep in mind that you are sustained to do that. You are subsidized to have that. So you can indeed have the right people on board. You know that you can pay them every month, that your overheads are being taken care of. So you can concentrate on really producing content. So for you, it's not important that people consume you for free or if they have to pay, because you have the backup. The problem is where does the private sector get generation of revenue to at least having the same kind of team on board? People with this new digital migration, even it should change from the analog, because before we had the burden to have your own transmitters and all that, and people would still consume you for free, because radio is still like that. People listen to the radio for free. But today, this digital migration gives an opportunity for newcomers, at least, to get a revenue from the end consumer. If people watch a bouquet today, they should be paying. It cannot be for free. That is where we need, with the regulator, come together. I mean, we cannot count in this market on advertisement income. No, it's too small. But the opportunities that we can get because of this digital migration, because some people are trading whatever providers generate as content.
Right.
So that revenue needs to come back in order to be able to sustain. So I wouldn't put it straight on the management or stuff like that. The problem is, where should the revenue come to sustain that industry?
Right, but you say that, and if I'm correct, which I think I am, when you have a set-top box at home,
yes,
people actually pay for subscription.
Yes.
Apart from Rwanda TV, which is free to air. And the argument or the expectation is that that money that the end user pays abonnement for should actually be either being shared with the stations that are actually being carried by that set-top box. Isn't this the case?
You see, normally, the way the whole value chain of the digital migration stands is that if one entity created the whole network, the multiplexer, they are the owners. But somebody will operate the content and, in fact, be in touch with the owner of the network and the end consumer. Today, TV channels in the digital migration are not allowed to trade their stuff. They need to be carried, aggregated by an operator, and that operator gets it at you at home. From there, because of what they are giving to the end consumer, some has to go back to the content providers and some to the owners of the whole network, so that they can service it and they can upgrade whenever you need. And that is a straight revenue that is not present here today, because we were in this transition. Actually,
but I think,
let me just finish to explain why we are here. Is because in this transition, we were giving immediately temporary licenses. But in fact, we need to get a proper license, and that's where we are going now. We've been talking, we've been discussing this we've been actually building up this now. If we now can get licenses which are pay TV licenses, then at least the operator can sell our content. Because otherwise, he was not even allowed to sell us. So now he can generate a revenue that he can bring back to the content providers. Right. So that will be a next step. We're not there yet, but that is where we're going very soon.
Right. Asimwe, you wanted to
I think Albert concludes on the right note. We're not yet there. We're still on the path towards that, the ideal situation where RBA, for example, as the owners of a multiplex or the signal distributors, are able to sell contact TV as content to the end user, and the end user is able to pay.
Subscribe. Yeah.
Subscribe and say, no, I'm paying my monthly subscription because I'm enjoying contact TV. So it is a complex web of so many things. For me to be able to sell contact TV, it has to be sellable. You understand? For me to be able to sell any of the private commercial TVs, they must be attractive. And audience, so the viewers see value for paying that extra penny to be able to view something that is really attractive on their TV sets.
So what's the state of affairs today?
So the state of affairs, I think we're going into a nice discussion. And this is important where the regulator comes in. I think, like I said, we have been into a transition. But now it's high time we sat down and said, how do we sustain funding, first of all, to the public broadcaster, because the public broadcaster in any situation or any country is very important. The public broadcaster is there to work for the interests of the public, whereas the commercial people are there for profits. For us, we're here to be able to serve the ordinary people, in all aspects. So we must come up with a formula of how do we ensure that maybe the public broadcaster is not competing with the commercials. How do we find a financing model? There are so many. In the UK, the BBC is financed by a license fee. Yes. Is it time for us to introduce a license fee on the market here? I think it might be still too early. In Sweden, there's a license fee. In a country like Zambia, interesting, Zambia, whoever has cash power pays an extra
that goes towards funding the public broadcaster.
To the public broadcaster. When you look at a country like Zimbabwe, I think whoever owns a vehicle, because they assume in a vehicle there's a radio, you have to listen to radio. So whoever owns a vehicle pays an annual sort of tax that goes back to fund the public broadcaster. But even in our situation, how do we find, for example, an ideal model that could be in form of an indirect tax, like the VAT is an indirect tax? How do we come up with a model that is able to sustain the public broadcaster financially and relieve it from competing on the marketplace with the private commercial entities like the one of contact? So I think for me, this is a time that we can engage into discussion. Right. We can come up with a model. And it's not something that is going to, it's not entirely something that should be an affair of the regulator or the public broadcaster. It's something that cuts across the entire sector as a media. So we need to sit down together and say, I think for us to be able to grow this sector, be able to have private commercial players that are strong enough, these are the models that we need to develop and present to government for support.
And when I sit here and I look at you, no, you're sort of agreeing with what they're saying, and I'm wondering, what do we do in the meantime then? Because as we speak, and as Simo said, don't be shocked to hear 3 more, 2 more, 1 more actually shutting down. But what do we do in the meantime before these great ideas are actually put in place to actually
it's
make
already in motion.
The industry? Yeah?
Yeah, I agree with him. There is room for talking, for negotiating, for coming up with solution. But I want to assure my colleague Albert, as we talk now, Rwanda is about to license a second signal distributor. People have been depending on RBA. We have room to maneuver. And we have also we had their complaint about the fee, and the regulator has been investigating this. You have talked to RBA, you have talked to Star Times. But the good news is that we are coming up with solution. We are coming up with a second signal distributor, but still, ultimately, we need to sit, all of us, as he said, to find a a permanent solution.
But in fact,
Yes.
the regulator has been talking to us, and is been actually is now already moving. It's not in the meantime. As we talk now, we are now going to be upgraded by the regulator, which will allow our carrier, our enabler, to trade us. So we have started that. I'm so sorry that the colleagues maybe fell out before everything is, but we are in this process. Actually, we are talking to each other, and I think we are finding solutions right now.
But you see, it must be in phases. Because Albert, for me, Albert's ideas are great, but he seems to be jumping one phase. Because as a signal distributor, for example, me as RBA, for me to be able to pay him, because in an ideal situation, I should be carrying his TV, and I pay him for carrying it.
Yes.
Because I'm
sort of like royalties or something.
Yeah, that's an ideal situation. Would be to pay him for carrying his TV.
Yes.
But for now, I don't think it's possible, and that's why I think Tony mentions about a second signal distributor who's coming on the market. And I think for me, still, it won't provide a solution. For now, still as a signal distributor, for me to be able to maintain the infrastructure, which is very, very expensive to maintain. With these masts you see across the country, very expensive to maintain. For me to be able to maintain this infrastructure, and be able to make sure that the network reaches every corner of the country, I will still have to charge the content providers, in this case, the contact TVs, all the TVs that I'm carrying, to be able to carry their signal. Until we reach that ideal situation where TVX is a very attractive product, or a very attractive TV, that, the market is yearning for it, the market is fighting for it. Then I'm able to say, okay, you know what, I'm not paying because of your content.
No.
So for now, still, much as we come up with a solution, you cannot jump the phase of being charged
You actually
by a
jumping,
signal distributor.
you haven't fixed your house yet, you haven't attracted the urge for people to really demand for your content, for him to say,
What fixed his house? What fixed his house?
What fixed
What
your
did
house?
fix house?
What
No,
is- yes.
don't let him answer right now. Let me jump.
This house is not yet fixed. It's a work in progress.
Let me jump in here.
Yes.
Let me jump in here. First of all, some people are. It's not about people being so that we need to give the best content so that people are dying to buy. Let's put things first where they are. We, as Rwanda, opted for the digital migration. So this infrastructure, we went for it. It was already, just alone for RBA, or for OM4 at that time, that infrastructure was created. Now you're going to put the burden on everybody else that can enjoy when you had to do it. Not you, we had to do it. As a country.
As a government.
So we went for that. So now we're not going to put the burden on
but you don't have the burden because you don't have to build any transmission mast anyway.
But you don't put us in the if we are there or we are not there, RBA needs to be there. So that the whole power, the servicing, the upgrade, that needs to be catered for. It shouldn't be put on the burden of the other guys. Now, what this was not just for RBA, it was for the whole sector. Because it has enabled to have now to give to the people, to the audience, not just RBA, but a multiple choice.
So you feel RBA is actually taking advantage of...
No. I'm just explaining,
Yes.
because I've been in these discussions. I've been in the people who have been creating the whole framework. So that is where we're coming from. And let me tell you now, before you even started to do this kind of distribution, some other guys were there. We have other distributors of signals, and they are making money, and they've been making money. So the problem is that we quickly, as quick as we can, start, in fact, to change the approach that your service being paid for by the end consumer. And I believe it will in fact enable the whole sector, not just RBA, but it will a revenue like that will have a positive impact on content generation. We'll have better qualities because we will have sustainable solutions.
Let's hear from the voice of reason before Asimu comes back in. I think, Tony, I know for you, you've said all is well, no cause for alarm, everything is okay. But from the discussion, there's still some concerns. Of course, you said things can still be improved with time. But I want to hear your thought as a regulator on these, divergent views. How do you come in and say,
but we're not really divergent.
No, but of course.
It's just timing. But in fact,
But he says you're jumping.
No, I have some other ideas that I've shared with him. Maybe I've been jumping on that. But on this one, I'm with him. We are moving. And as for now, I understand. Because he cannot trade us as long as I still have a temporary license. It will be illegal for him. So indeed, while it's not there, we need to contribute because that was the model, we accepted it. So on this one, we are together.
Sure. Because some people argue that the licensing fee is actually, first of all, way up there. Of course, you need to pay a licensing fee. After that, you need to set up your studios. And then on top of that, you need to have some other, things that you have to actually cater for as far as cost is concerned. Already you are running, into your capital. You haven't even started making any money. You haven't started going on air, but already you have dug deeper into your pocket. How can the regulator then soften its stance to allow for growth first before people can start, spending what they're spending on their businesses as TVs and radios?
Yeah. To begin with, to start a business, you need a license. And definitely there is a need for a license fee.
How much is the license right now?
It depends on the type of license. You have a 5-year license for TV, long term.
How much is that?
5 million.
Okay.
And that's 5 years. I think it's fair.
So before you start anything, already you put that on the side?
Yes, you pay that fee, you get the license, then you get moving.
So what?
Any problem?
Any problem?
I don't think so. I mean, that's a minimum.
Yes, a minimum.
I don't think that there is...
And if you, maybe you may check with the other regulators in the region.
Yes.
I think Rwanda really is...
It's fair.
Is fair.
Yeah.
And he agrees.
And what of the, the carriers and how they do what they do? Let's say, for example, Star Times, DSTV, those who carry some of this content and the issue that Albert talks of getting a slice of what the end user is actually paying for. Asimo talked of, some sort of taxation, silent tax or something
but they
like that.
trade.
Yes, but let me first hear from him. Yeah.
Yeah, we have heard from Asimo's side. You have heard the concern from Albert and his colleagues. That's why I said the regulator now, as we talk, is analyzing the complaints from both sides, and very soon shall come up with an advice to the both parties.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me come back to you, Albert, on the issue that Asimo raised on management, and he also talked about that. And some people really feel, those who don't have the expertise of going into the nitty-gritty of the requirements, the payments for signal distribution and all that, what they watch and make them say, you know what, this TV will survive or it will not survive. There are those who argue and say, look, you have a TV station that has no proper structures, a TV station that probably the same person is actually doing everything at the end of the day, a TV station that actually downloads movies on YouTube and wants to be on the RBA carrier and wants to be given something on top of that. So there's a sense of feeling that there's a role to be played by the players and a burden to carry for the players in terms of them not being as attractive as they're required to be.
Yeah, but I wouldn't jump there immediately, because how long can you sustain without making revenues? So I agree that there are so many guys who also just popped out of nowhere, out of the blue with a computer. It's easy, and we'll say, yeah, this is digital, so all I need is a computer, 1 or 2 cameras and all that. But that is not the most problematic side of the whole thing. For me, the whole problem is to understand how do we generate revenue so that content providers can wake up every morning and improve their content. That is the main problem. And the problem is, if we are in an environment where people consume for free, and still some people are making money for that, we cannot sustain it. Because they only can sustain because they are on a budget of subsidies. Only. It would never, and they would do much more, actually, if they could have their own avenues of revenue. If we get to the point that people pay a license or pay a tax or pay, and that goes there, these guys will be flying. And so will be the private sector.
Asimo, is it true that today, if let's say the government said, from today, there is no supplementary budget or any financing coming to you, you'll now be on your own, create your own revenue, and spend it the way you are? Do you think you'd also be in the news as closing shop in Rwanda?
Let me tell you, and by the way, we're very appreciative of the support we get from government. Government gives us a small subsidy. From our total budget, annual budget, I can say that 20% comes from the subsidy of government, which is not big enough, but which keeps us moving. And we can only hope and pray that it gets increased. But the point that my friend Albert is making is that, and I think he's not being direct, is that, it's unfair for the public broadcaster to be competing on the same marketplace as the private commercial players. And so their wish is, the public broadcaster, in this case, which is RBA, should be financed either 100% by government or other means of financing it, such that it moves away from competing with the private players on the market.
Which is a fair thought, no?
I mean, it's a situation that happens elsewhere. I mean, the BBC doesn't carry adverts, or when you go to all these public broadcasters in Europe, most of them don't carry adverts. But for now, it's not possible on the, given the small size of our budget, given the competing priorities of government and which have to find, funding from government. So it's difficult to say that, government is going to commit 10 billion every year to run RBA. So that's why they say, a small portion, we have invested in you, we've given you equipment, very good capital investment, so go and make good use of the capital investment they've made in you, make money from it. But going forward, and that's why I say this is the beginning of a nice conversation. Going forward, we should be able to see these brothers of ours that are in private business. How do we serve them much better? In the sense that how do we make sure that the public broadcaster gets a financing model that is sustainable and be able to run away or move away from competing with these brothers of ours on the market. But one thing they need to know, and they must put into consideration, is that if you're going to start as a kiosk and you have merchandise, you go and shop merchandise to put into your kiosk, you must know that your kiosk has to pay rent if it's not owned by, if the structure is not owned by you. You need to pay rent for the premises you're working in.
There's no escaping away from that.
So for now, for RBA, you have to pay rent. Because for you to be seen by the viewers, we have to carry you, or StarTimes has to carry you. And I think also StarTimes is charging. Until we find that model that can say, okay, these guys, they're free to air, I carry them for free, stop competing with them on the marketplace, that is coming. But for now, it is impossible to say that you don't charge them for that. No.
Right. Okay. Before you respond, Albert, I want to bring in this quote here. And of course, it's in line with what he's saying. And probably you can jump in and also add in what you wanted to say. This is President Paul Kagame, who was actually speaking on the need for the government and private sector to actually have a responsibility. And actually, they do have a responsibility. This is what he was saying, to actually invest in our local media and actually help raise their professional and ethical standards. So my question here is, because you said in your initial submission that even government has actually scaled down on their spending, and the private sector also, I've had a lot of people saying we have a private sector that is not making as much noise as it should for us to actually earn from it. So what do we do then? What you've talked of having the methods for,
I'm talking,
for revenue generation.
You're not listening. And Arthur even quotes me, and he quotes, he's talking about something that I might have shared, but when I had less gray hair than I have today. And you see, I've been private all the time. I've never crossed to be at the other side and enjoy the subsidies of the government. So don't tell me that. I'm telling you that I don't even count anymore on that revenue that comes from the private sector media buy, because that is so small compared to what people who are trading our content are making. I'll give you an example. If we have 500 screens in this country, and if they have to pay 1,000 franc subscription a month to be able to watch something in their screen, that generates a budget of 500 million a month. Advertisement doesn't generate that. Not at all. But that revenue should be shared by the content providers. And if StarTime is charging anybody to carry them, then they should be sued, because they should be paying back the money that they are making from the content. Isn't it, Mr. Regulator? Isn't it that if they are making money from trading the content, there should be a return to the content providers? Yeah, you should not carry. It's not the fact that you have a kiosk. You have a Rolls Royce and you are bringing content to the people, and it cannot be just RBA, because we have moved on in a digital era. It is a multiple choice. So you don't gonna charge the people that you bring to the people. You should be making money from that.
You've asked a direct question to the regulator. I want to hear him say something about that, if you're with us.
So StarTime should not. I understand RBA, because we're coming and from a transition, but StarTime has been doing that. Let me give you an example. My colleagues in Burundi were getting money from StarTimes to be on StarTimes.
And so why that is not the case here in Rwanda?
In Rwanda.
What is your take on that? Why is that not the case here in Rwanda?
I think I explained before that under the new regulation you have opportunities to discuss all of these issues. And
is this going to be your full submission throughout the show? That under the new regulation things will be solved?
Well, we are in a transition.
I hear Bana is back. Let's hear from Bana. Bana, if you've been following the conversation all through, if you have, I want to hear your take on what you've been hearing, the statements that have been coming here. Regulator says, under the new regulations that are coming up, things will be better. Worry not, guys. Albert is saying, if in other countries, the carriers are actually paying the content providers, that is the TV stations they're carrying, then why isn't that the case here in Rwanda? And if that happens, then we'll be able to make money and forget about even counting money from advertisements, which is not even enough to sustain us. What is your take on all this?
I must say I agree with Albert. Listening to Arthur, clearly he's a spoiled child. I mean, you talk about the subsidies. Imagine if the subsidy was to be shared amongst the small private operators. You know, we didn't have people closing shop but going home. So I would like to suggest that even the subsidy that Arthur is talking about, he shouldn't be competing with a small, media houses in the interest of supporting the media to be vibrant. Otherwise, if you say you have a subsidy and it's not enough and you would like to get more, and there are those who don't even have the little, and even the little they have, you go and compete with it. I mean, how is that business going to work?
Perfect.
Content generation that they are talking about
Keep going.
requires money to be able to get good talent, to invest in the equipment, generate content that everyone will appreciate. It costs money. To run a newsroom in a professional manner, retain professional people, you need money. So it's not going to come from everywhere that suddenly have content on television that is attractive. And if the private sector takes the risk and makes the investment, they will give it maybe 2, 3, 5 years. They're expecting returns. But if you continue to invest, let's say, 30 million, and the revenues are 3, 6 million, how do you continue to sustain your business? So I think we need to have a conversation around how do we have the private sector that realizes that private media also needs support. We need them to thrive. All the adverts should not be going to RBA. Subsidy should be enough for RBA.
Thank you, Bana. You're loud and clear, and Asimu is here. The analogy of a spoiled kid. What is your take on that? You already have a subsidy. Work with that. Don't go and actually compete with Albert and the others for other.
I think Eugene, we should have a show on the mandate of a public broadcaster. A public broadcaster is different from a commercial broadcaster. Our programming is not necessarily 100% commercial. We take into interest the needs of the community. I'll put on, for example, I'll put on an agriculture show.
Yes.
Not because the agriculture show is going to make money for me, but because I'm supposed to have a mandate of educating our farmers on the best practices of farming.
Yes,
I'll
but
put,
still,
listen,
yes,
I'll
yes.
put up a health show, not because MTN or Tigo or this big brand are going to advertise on a health show. I put it on because I have a mandate of educating people on the best health practices. So the nature of our mandate gives us responsibility of having programming that is not commercially oriented, but that helps improve the knowledge and information for the ordinary masses. That is why, world over, a public broadcaster is either financed 100% by government, or there's a model for a subsidy like we have here, or you have the license fee where, everybody owns the TV,
that, yes.
owns that. So there's no way you can run away from supporting the public broadcaster because of the nature of the mandate. And where it has failed, and we've seen it in the region, where public broadcasters have been neglected, and you find the commercial players that ranking number 1, number 2, number 3, and at the end of the day, it becomes an issue for national politics or for national interests, because the public broadcaster has been neglected. But coming back to what my friend Albert is saying, Albert's arguments are very valid and important. He says StarTimes should be able to pay him for carrying a channel. But StarTimes also sit there and tell you that, what, how much money am I making from carrying your channel? For me to be able to pay you.
From the
Well,
subscription.
it's easy. Take your total and divide by how many you and give me my due.
But you see, StarTimes will say, I'm carrying you because maybe I'm going to use your content to generate some advertising. Let's use DSTV, for example. DSTV pays, like National Geographic, those big channels.
Yes.
They pay them very good money, almost $6 million or $8 million
Yes.
a year. They pay them because of.
I think the issue of the national broadcaster
Yes. Go ahead,
is
Bana.
not subject to debate. We understand that you need a strong public broadcaster who will focus on public interest stories. There's no doubt about that. Perhaps that's a whole different discussion, because then we have to discuss how to fund public interest journalism on a public broadcaster. But if you come to the private media, the challenges are different. So what I would like to put to Arthur, even with your subsidy, how much more would you need to provide public interest journalism?
Perfect. I think you've heard that. You can give in closing. Yes, I'm told time is also running up. Yes.
No. Bana, and for even our viewers, there's no way we can run away from supporting the public broadcaster because of the public nature. I mean, the public mandate that we have.
So can we agree?
We cannot run away from supporting the public broadcaster.
Right. Can we agree that when you have content that you said is, let's say, of agricultural interest or health interest, then those shows should not be seen to be going out to actually look for advertisers in the private sector to come and advertise on
them. But they don't even attract advertisement. But let me say something important because it's running out of time. And, and my colleagues has also mentioned it. Mm-hmm. Evidently, there is falling revenues on the government side when it comes to communication. At every budget reading, or whatever ministries or government entities are cutting or reducing on their budgets, the first place they reduce is communication budget. And so over the years, we've been seeing this.
That is the conversation we need to have.
And we've been seeing this. We've been seeing this falling, and it's affecting the media. Then added to our private sector that is not really that versatile,
it's not communicating at all.
Has no huge appetite for advertisement because of I don't know why. You find really the media sector is facing a challenge. So there's an important message that needs to go out to government that we need to
communicate.
We need to communicate. We need to, as much as possible, increase the budget that goes into communication. That money, at the end of the day, comes back into the media, and the media is able to
flourish.
Survive.
For me, the numbers are not there.
But let's not take things for granted.
Right.
Private sector people, or even government, is going to come and place a message in your media outlet because you merit it. Because your content or your programming is attractive and has a big audience.
Right.
So people shouldn't think that, it's like manna falling from heaven, you're going to get free money from government,
and
you're going
do
to
nothing.
get money from private sector. No, they have to look at numbers. What's the audience number like? What your numbers are in the market? So that's important that people need to know about this aspect.
Right.
But at the end of the day, media in this country must run as a business.
No. But of course,
as your closing remark,
I completely agree. Everything has to, but even public sector should be handled.
So why then no? You say the big. No.
What I say is that let's not. This digital migration has opened up opportunities that we didn't have before. We have the smallest private sector in the whole world, I think. People who are not, they're not there to bake the cake. They don't have marketing managers. They don't have marketing departments. It's always the CEO running the whole show, thinking he knows. He will push a billboard, feel good about it, when he doesn't even know how the marketing structure run. They don't know about brand building. So I'm not even counting on the private sector today, because I think they will also grow. And media is part of the media sector. But we have an opportunity as the different players of this sector, through the digital migration, to get new revenue streams. And these are the numbers. The people who are watching, these screens is 500,000 maybe in these countries, but there are more screens even here. So all of that, if everybody pays something for watching content from here, and that goes back to the industry, people will come up with a better content.
Right.
People will be able to attract quality people, and we have quality revenues. From there, it will also appeal to the private sector. Also, eventually, they start to have some.
So this is a big conversation, I think, as Simo said, needs to actually be done.
So I'm not trying. He can keep his revenue from advertisements. What I want is that everybody puts together that people consuming content and pay for it, and that it goes back, and we grow from there. Let's at least
content is not free.
Content should not be free.
Right.
And for everybody. So we should with that be able to lift up the level of everybody. Like they got from Orange to RBA, that was so much better quality.
All right.
And I think the private sector can do the same.
Right. In closing, Bwana regulator.
My final submission.
Yes, you're coming in. I'm coming to you, Bwana. Let's hear from the regulator. Your closing remarks after hearing all this.
Thank you very much. Yes, we have had the challenges in the media, but as Albert said, there are also opportunities. On the part of the regulator, I can assure my colleagues that we are here to support the media development in this country. And as I said, as we enter into a new relationship with the media, there are so many chances of discussing and overcoming challenges.
Right. Bwana, very quickly, your closing remarks, your final submission, Bwana, very quickly.
One, the opportunities are there.
Yes.
There's a lot of room to grow. Business models have to change in view of technology. You can no longer run luxurious big newsrooms. Technology is changing that. 3, we need to find a way of funding RBA to stop it from competing with the small space in the private sector.
All right. Thank you so much, Bana. Of course, Bana Deje, you've seen the challenges I face here on the show. When the show gets interesting is when I'm being told in my ears we need to go. So I'm sure we'll also have a conversation on this one as far as, more time is concerned. But of course, it's time to say goodbye. And of course, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. We did not have enough time to go through all the social media feedback, but I can see them. There are so many right here. Flora Kaitesi is actually saying this discussion needs a part 2. Indeed, it does need a part 2. David Kezio says, I want to ask Tony Kulamba, how long does it take for Rura to license a print magazine which is okayed by RMC? I think this is a personal question. I agree with Mr. Albert that there must be enough money coming out of the charges of broadcasting rents, enough to give. There's so much going on social media. Be part of that conversation. Just use the hashtag InFocusRW. I hope we'll have a conversation on this also with the communicators, the departments, the institutions that have communication budget. What do you do with that money? And of course, at the end of the day, you need to actually listen to what they have been saying as far as spending is concerned, and it's for your own good. If you keep that money and take it back for the sake of being seen as the best institution that saves on money, then you're losing the point, you're missing the point. Let's keep this conversation going. My name, as always, is Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye for now.